If you've been anywhere online without an ad blocker recently, you've probably seen ads like this.
Oh
They're shocking, often racy, and generally frustrating. And they have very little to do with the actual games they're supposed to be advertising. Mobile games designed specifically for phones and tablets are a massive part of the video game industry, played by over 2 billion with a B people worldwide. But that huge market is propelled by misleading and provocative ad campaigns, which seem more focused on drawing a reaction than convincing people to actually play the game. And the bizarre nature of these ads had us asking, who's behind all this? And do these ads actually work? Mobile games made about $92 billion in profit worldwide in 2022. That's about half of the total video game industry's profit that year. That's despite the fact that mobile games usually don't charge any money upfront to play them. The most successful mobile games let their players in for free and then try and sell them on extras like cosmetics or bonus items. Mobile game developers have gotten very good at finding ways to convince players to shell out some cash on their free-to-play games. The real challenge is finding ways to convince potential customers to download a game in the first place.
Unless you have truly identifiable intellectual property, you are left to building creative marketing to basically get in front of a user for them to determine whether or not they're interested in what your product offers or doesn't offer.
Brian Murphy is the head of gaming in North America for AppsFlyer, a marketing analytics company which helps mobile developers advertise more effectively. The company is one of many resources game makers can use to see how well their ad campaigns are doing. New users are a valuable resource for mobile games. They mean more chances for the developers to make money, and more data about how effective their game is. User acquisition is a careful balance of spending just enough money on ads to get more value out of the new users those ads attract.
Say, for example, you're running a campaign with Facebook for, say, $1 million. You can see very clearly through AppsFlyer, if you do it properly, that you're getting, say, $1.5 million back in ROI. And so literally, if you're doing this right, you're only limited by how many users you can cry on the face of the earth because they're all profitable because you're doing it right.
This formula has let some mobile ads go as big as possible, with Super Bowl spots and big-name celebrity cameos.
It's almost like some twisted game.
Hyper-expensive ads like these are worth the price tag if they can haul in a commensurate number of valuable users. But if you can't afford Pedro Pascal money for your ads, you have to be sure the audience you do reach is as enticed as possible. And that's led many mobile game developers to converge on certain tactics, namely misleading ads.
There are ad platforms and advertisers that are developing creative that have nothing to do with the actual gameplay itself, but they recognize that that would entice the user to play no matter what, and they can drive a conversion from that and potentially even drive some revenue from it.
The result is an explosion of similar-looking advertisements, a character in distress, some sort of simple puzzle mechanic, and often some simulated gameplay with a frustratingly bad outcome. This basic formula can be found across all different games and genres. Tactics that grab viewers' attention work regardless of what the actual game is like. These eye-catching ads would just be a harmless curiosity if all they were doing was selling free games. But the free-to-play business model these ads are attached to is controversial in its own right. Unlike other games, free mobile games often enable and encourage users to make repeat purchases within them over and over, which means players can and sometimes do spend thousands of dollars on microtransactions for one game. This has led to a flurry of grim stories, from children unwittingly spending their parents' money to compulsive overspending from so-called whale users. The extent to which these games are at fault for this behavior is still unclear, and mobile game developers in general have gotten better at walking the line between engaging gameplay loops and outright psychological manipulation. But it's still true that most free-to-play games are designed to encourage as much spending as possible, and funneling in new customers with ads is the first step in that process. So, that's why mobile game ads are like that, an insatiable hunger for new users, plus precise data on what will draw them in. But how did we end up with these specific kinds of ads? And how do the companies that make the games justify the advertising? To find out, I spoke with the marketing producer for one such game with some of the most inventive ads out there.
Any emotions
can be useful to us. It's joy and sadness, anger and irritation, and negative emotions are stronger in terms of manifestation.
This is Igor Voronov, a creative marketing producer at mobile game developer Nexters. He designs ads for their flagship title, Hero Wars, including ads that use misleading mechanics to entice the viewers.
My first creative was with flexible tubes. I invented this mechanic, and then we invented towers.
The actual game part of Hero Wars mostly involves managing a roster of little champions and sending them out to fight automated battles. But the game's ads focus on a swath of engaging mini-puzzles, puzzles which only barely exist in tiny micro-levels within the broader game.
Oops, oh, am I gonna do what the ads are gonna do, where I can't read two numbers and subtract them?
These micro-puzzles make for an enticing ad, but are harder to generate and make money off of than Hero Wars' gradual formulaic gameplay, hence why they're confined to bonus stages and not the main game. Misleading ads aren't the first choice for mobile game companies. It's much better to attract an audience that actually wants to play the game you're promoting. But using footage that accurately represents the game hits some hard limits pretty fast if you're just trying to get new users in the door. Instead, each ad campaign is targeted to be as enticing as possible to a wider swath of consumers. Voronov argues these ads aren't deceptive per se, they're instead conveying a larger emotional truth about what playing the game feels like.
Advertising does not seek to dryly convey reality. We try to demonstrate the emotion that the viewer will receive from the game. We want to convey very simple thought. Hi, meet our heroes. In the game, you will defeat enemies. You rely on numbers, select combinations, you upgrade, move forward, change your appearance, fight bosses.
Voronov says the satisfaction of Hero Wars comes over weeks and months of protracted investment in the game, something that's difficult to convey with a 30-second ad. The challenges shown in Hero Wars ads aren't the main gameplay experience, but they might capture the feeling of playing Hero Wars. And to be fair, modern advertising does get pretty abstract when it comes to product descriptions, but most other industries still tend to keep their ads tethered to the product's main use. No matter how surreal an Old Spice commercial might get, it never tries to sell you on the shampoo's taste. Evocative or not, Hero Wars ads do end up causing friction with new users who expected a different experience. The game's store pages are rife with negative reviews about misleading ads, which can drive other potential users away, and even lead to action from the app storefronts hosting the game.
We are always thinking about how we are perceived, so we create red lines for ourselves that we try and do not cross.
Mobile ads are starting to face some regulatory scrutiny. In 2020, the UK's Advertising Standards Authority censured mobile game developer Playrix for running ads that didn't reflect their game's mechanics. In response, the company added mini-games that used mechanics from the ads, and a lot of other games followed suit. In response to our questions, staff from the US Federal Trade Commission confirmed that mobile game companies do have to abide by their unfair or deceptive practices regulations when it comes to their ads, but noted that the free-to-play nature of these games, quote, certainly might impact resource allocation decisions when it comes to enforcing the rules. But regulators and consumer backlash haven't made these ads any less effective at bringing in new users. If anything's likely to change the face of mobile game advertising, it's going to be the mobile game market itself. Misleading ads might be the most common tactic for mobile game makers, but there are plenty of newer strategies starting to emerge. Ad makers have started drawing on other methods like elaborate skits, celebrity endorsements, and TikTok influencers to sell their games.
Play Ring! Shadow Legends now! Link in bio!
There's even a subgenre of ads that reference their own misleading nature.
Everybody says this game is fake, and I don't know why. I'm literally playing it right now. This is the game.
Which suggests consumers are starting to cotton on to these kind of tactics.
Eventually, all creatives die. People get bored with it. They don't want to watch it at all, even if it's a great creative.
Andrei Kalita and Lilia Gafultulina are user acquisition managers at Ad Quantum. They help design mobile ad campaigns for game developers, including several ad campaigns featuring misleading mechanics.
If you have something that works this week, you can be sure that it will work even the next week. We're pushed to always search for something new and always develop new approaches.
Misleading ads are at the forefront of mobile gaming because they're effective, but they're also not always a guaranteed hit. For all the data mobile marketers have, the mobile game business can sometimes be inexplicably fickle.
When we find really great misleading creative and users start flowing with a really good revenue, and a week pass and we see retention rate is dropping and all the prediction money just goes away, and like, guys, we need to adjust something really quickly.
It doesn't help that the sector's been hit by some recent turbulence, both economic and structural. Video game analytics firm Newzoo found mobile games revenue dropped by 6.4% year over year during 2022. That's the largest fall of a contracting gaming market. Part of that's due to post-pandemic and financial pressures, but it's also thanks to new challenges introduced by Apple's privacy initiative. Newzoo told Next Level the limited ability to identify and track valuable users continues to cause headwinds for mobile developers, publishers, and advertisers. Stringent privacy-based policies from the most dominant mobile platforms, Apple and Google, as well as regulators, have created new challenges for developers. The new focus on privacy changes the data advertisers have access to, which makes it harder for ad makers to target the right audience. These hurdles aren't insurmountable, but they do make it all the more important for ad makers to understand what makes their ads tick in the first place.
If we understand how to trigger the audience in the correct way, like what is our audience basically, we'll still be able to find a good creative approach. It will just affect what data we see and how deep can we analyze the performance.
Ultimately, the success or failure of these bizarre ads rests on the shape of the billion-dollar industry behind them. Mobile gaming's free-to-play norms and focus on microtransactions has created an oversaturated market of free games, each one desperate for attention and willing to mislead potential customers to get it. There have been some attempts to shift the market away from the free-to-play model and towards less aggressive monetization, most notably Apple Arcade's subscription service. But unless and until the mobile market actually moves away from its current underpinnings, developers will be incentivized to keep attracting new users en masse. And weird ads like these will keep popping up across the internet.